It is finally October, and it's finally time for another episode of the Horror Headquarters Nightlings. Hope you're all prepping for fall festivities and planning your costumes for Halloween. I'm so glad you guys are here today, because I have a special episode planned. If you recall, in the very first episode of the Horror Headquarters, I announced how I was eager to watch The Nun II, and that moment has finally come. This episode will be very raw, and it will consist of my first impressions of the movie, as well as some creepy events that were executed before, during, and after the film. So grab a snack, get comfy, and pray for forgiveness. Midnight hour has arrived. Now, I want this episode to be as fun as possible because I had the most amazing experience watching The Nun II, except for some minor inconveniences that kind of ruined the movie, hence why I have to watch it again. I'm just going to put that out there right now that I have to watch the movie again. I was going to watch it a second time either way, but being the theater experience I had, I'm like, okay, as soon as this comes out, I'm watching it again in complete silence without anyone and their distracting sounds and annoying sounds. Now, I want to be as open as possible with you guys. I am on 0 hours of sleep. I have had 3 exams this week, and I've had a monologue performance and a singing performance. So I apologize if my voice doesn't sound as uplifting and exciting as it usually does. But I'm literally gonna try my best to sound very energized because this is really my happy place. I love doing this podcast. It gets me going, it gets me up every day, it keeps me motivated, and I want you guys to stay as interested as possible. So I really appreciate you guys being here and coping with my craziness. Alright, now the ticket process was insane on its own because pre-orders were going out so quickly in my area. And I wanted to go watch this film with my 2 cousins because they both are very interested in horror like me, but there's like no one in my immediate family that likes horror except for me. So like they go hang out with me when I go watch films and like horror films like this stuff. But it was enjoyable, but buying the tickets was crazy because like you can like see the map of all the seats and all you see is all of them disappearing very quickly because of the hype for this film. The marketing was amazing. They like sent nuns all around the world holding candles, like the faceless nuns, to like go to different countries and like hold candlesticks like outside a certain building or something. It was really creepy, but it was an amazing marketing move and it obviously worked. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to think I'm insane, but just for reference, The Nun II released on September 8th, 2023. I watched the film September 15th, a week after it released, but let me explain myself. I was way too busy the first week because school had just started and I couldn't afford to go to the movies, not money wise. I had so much to already plan for, and I had an exam coming up already. I know, already the first week of school. But I just had so much going on, and it was also the only time that my cousins were available to watch the movie as well. So I was fighting an internal and external battle with social media because I was trying to stay off of it as much as possible because there were spoilers left and right, and I knew it. I felt it. I'm like, okay, if I open this app, there's going to be spoilers. The tiniest spoiler I saw, and the only spoiler I saw, thank God, was when I opened up TikTok and like part of the nun, like the actual nun, like rising up or something came up on the screen. Immediately swiped out and deleted TikTok. I'm like, no, not risking it. Not risking this right now. It was horrifying to me. Like just the fact of getting it spoiled for me. And I know a lot of people don't believe in things getting spoiled, but I have been looking forward to this movie forever. And I wasn't going to let anything ruin it or like ruin the mojo for the feeling. But I'm so happy that's the only one I saw because thankfully I understood everything in the film. Nothing looked like I had saw it before. I even forgot the spoiler I seen until like after I watched the movie. I'm like, oh, that's the scene. I'm not gonna say what the scene was though. I want to try to be as discreet as possible because, like I said, this is a first impressions review. But I do want to describe the insane experience I had when I was in the theater itself. Now, we watched this film in Dolby Atmos with surround sound. Yes, horrible idea. But in the best way, a horrible idea, because it was even more terrifying, because everywhere around us, if you don't know what surround sound is, you can basically hear the movie from every corner of the room, which is terrifying, but it works for horror films, especially ones like this, or any action film for that matter. It just feels like you're there hearing everything take place as well as visualizing it all. It was insane. It was very creepy. There was a lot of like noises that would happen throughout the film that I thought like was actually happening, but it was just the speakers. I like fully immersed myself in the film from like start to finish, but unfortunately there was like a group of 4 or 5 people behind us all the way down to the right, laughing hysterically anytime a jump scare would come out or whenever there was silence in the film, which pissed me off so much. This is one of the reasons why I really dislike going to theaters, because of stupid people that go to ruin it for everyone else. I can name 100 other scenarios where I've had similar situations or even worse, but it was just so bad to the point where I like looked over at one of my cousins. I'm like, is it even worth it saying anything? And she like nodded her head, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, because it's not gonna work. I'm not gonna waste my energy on that, ruin my moment for the film. But it was consistent. It was from start to finish. They would not stop laughing hysterically so loud at like parts where like something sad was happening or like a death scene was going on. They're laughing, and I'm like, why, what's going on? I can't comprehend it. And if you're one of those people and you're listening to this podcast, I hate you so much. You guys deserve to have both pillows hot on both sides every single day for the rest of your lives. And you guys don't know how to behave in a theater. And you guys are full grown adults. Yeah, these people were full grown adults. They were not kids, children. Even the freaking kids were acting more mature than them. There was literally a 5-year-old sitting next to me, and he didn't make one sound. That just shows the level of maturity that these people had. Now, as a result, I didn't get to enjoy the film as much, and I'm sad to say that, but like, they ruined every sad scene, they ruined every horrific scene, every jump scare was like, I was like getting ready for them to laugh. And I know that's not like a good thing to do, to like prep my body for like, oh, they're gonna laugh right now, but it literally happened every single time, which was so annoying. But the creepy thing is that they were genuinely laughing, hysterically laughing. These people are psychopaths. Another thing from the first episode, if you don't recall, if someone's laughing during a horror film that is absolutely terrifying, they are psychotic. And like, I was reminded of the first episode I did. I'm like, oh, I said this because people were saying that the Nun 2018 version was so funny and that they were laughing. And now I'm witnessing it. And I was like shook. I'm like, oh my god, it's actually happening. Like, this isn't bullshit. People think this film is hysterical. You guys are crazy. That's all I gotta say. But please don't go to a movie theater if you're gonna laugh during a horror film. Unless there's like a part to laugh, that's fine. But if you're laughing hysterically with 5 other people, you're ruining the film for everyone else in the room that paid money. And I know I sound like a Karen, but you know what? It's the truth. And everyone else in that theater was pissed off as well. As soon as the movie was over, like everyone got up and like they were all looking at each other like, someone was like, who the hell was laughing? And I'm like, there was like 5 people up here laughing right behind us, and everyone was pissed off. A lot of us wanted to get refunds, but none of us did. But you know, you can't control stupidity people. I said stupidity people. You cannot control stupidity people. I cannot speak today. So that just shows you how angry these people made me. But there you go. Alright, now besides all that craziness, I do want to talk about a few key scenes that happened in this film that I really enjoyed. Now, spoiler alert to everyone listening, if you guys have not watched The Nun II yet and plan on watching it, try skipping over a little bit, maybe like 2 minutes, or come back and finish listening to this episode after you've completed it. Because they're not going to be like really insane spoilers. I'm not going to throw out anyone's name. but I do want to talk about a specific scene in the beginning. Now, I don't remember exactly how the film started, but I do know that like it was happening in a church. There was a boy carrying like this big glass container of wine up and down the stairs to use like during church services and everything, because they say that wine is the blood of Christ, red wine is the blood of Christ. And after that whole scene happened, the boy was taking it back down, and where he originally like placed his stepping ladder or whatever to put it back on the shelf, it had been moved. And he stopped for a second, and then he put it back up against the wall, placed the glass on top of the shelf, and then stopped, turned around, and I don't remember exactly what happened because of the stupid people laughing, but I do remember complete silence. He knew that like someone was downstairs, the kid. And then it's just like complete silence for like 15 seconds maybe. I was waiting for something to jump out at me, but instead there was like a sound of glass breaking, which was the container that the wine was in. But it made the loudest sound, and it scared the shit out of me. I was so scared. I'm like laughing now because I think everyone else was like waiting for something really bad to happen, and then like all you hear is glass like shattering a little bit, like a puncture of glass, if that makes sense. If you guys have watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. That like I'm like, oh, that was it, and I'm like, oh my god, and then Vlad came out, and I'm like, oh shit. But I definitely do think that opening scene was possibly one of the best opening scenes that I've ever seen in a film because of how well it was executed. The directing, the camera angles, the amazing actor, the kid that was playing this boy, he did such a good job, and he conveyed so much emotion even though he was silent. And then later on, after like maybe 2 minutes passed, they're like looking for Valak in the church. They're walking around, and then the priest levitates, and Valak burns him from legs to head, or from feet to head, I should say. It was very uncomfortable and unsettling to watch, but it was so wicked. And I know I sound like a geek saying that, but it was so cool. I'm like, okay, this film was gonna be amazing. And seeing that opening scene, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to see what else happens in this film, because I know it's gonna be so good and it's gonna leave me in awe. Now, surprisingly, I cannot remember when I first saw Taissa Farmiga come out on stage, like on the film. I was too perplexed with what had just happened in the previous scene with with the priest burning to death. But I do recall what I did when I saw her come on stage. I was like, like a tiny little clap, because I was so excited. Because I have been waiting for this film for so long. And she looks exactly the same. That woman does not age at all. And she still is such a phenomenal actress. And watching her grow from the 2018 version to this one, like now she's a full-fledged nun. If you guys haven't watched The Nun, the first one, she was a novitiate and she hadn't taken her vows yet. And this one, she's finally taken her vows, and she's wearing like the black outfit and everything. The habit, I think it's called. But it like felt different in a way, but in the best way possible. And now that Taissa Farmiga is a full-fledged nun in this film, this opens the opportunity and the door for another novitiate to come into play. And this is where Storm Reed, who plays Deborah, comes in, and she's the new novitiate in this film, who is hesitant to take her vows, and Taissa is kind of like convincing her to do it, because Storm Reed, the one that plays Deborah, she's saying, like, I'm not sure what my purpose is yet. I want to believe in miracles. I want to believe in God. And so when Taissa gets called to like take care of this whole Valak situation, but she doesn't know it's Valak yet, but she does, but she doesn't in a way. I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to watch the film to get it. But she goes with Taissa on this journey, even though Taissa's like, no, you're not coming. And Deborah's like, no, I want to believe in miracles, and this could be the opportunity to see a miracle. I'm coming with you. So they go on together, and a bunch of shit happens, really bad shit, a lot. A lot of fight scenes in this film, which I love. I guess you can call them fight scenes, even though Vlog's just a demon, but she's powerful as hell. Pun intended. Now, in this film, of course, Maurice is still present. Can't live without Maurice's amazing humor. I love this character so much, and I love the actor that plays him because it's so well done in a way that makes me look at it as a real person and not even as acting, which is a good thing. I also talked about this in the Nun 2018. I'm going to be making a lot of references back to that episode, so if you haven't watched it, give it a listen because a lot of things won't make sense. But I really love the portrayal of Maurice in this one because it intensifies worse and worse as the film progresses because he's becoming more and more of a lock, even though he doesn't realize it. And it's not until a certain thing occurs and then he realizes that he's Vlog, and then a bunch of shit goes down. But I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm going to try moving on from that. But there is, like I said, amazing ensemble characters in this one. There's a girl named Sophie, and her mother's name is Kate, and she's the instructor at this boarding school, and both of them together work very well. Actually, the girl that plays Kate was in Chronicles of Narnia. I'm not sure of her name. I have to search it up, but it's so good. They work so well together. Kate, Sophie, and Maurice, all three of them together in one scene is like magic. You can feel the connection. And I know for some people that aren't like film geeks and everything, you guys don't really understand the like extent to what I'm talking about. But if you've watched the film and really enjoyed it and liked the bond that they all had, you would know what I'm talking about. But overall, very good. And there's also some really mean girls in this film. They pick on Sophie because of her like attachment to Maurice, because she doesn't have a father figure. Sophie doesn't have a father figure, so I think she looks at Maurice as one. And the other girls make fun of her for it, and they call Maurice her boyfriend, and Maurice is always defending her for it. And they end up actually getting her in trouble at one point in the film, but they get the karma they deserve. They do, but I felt bad. But I won't spoil it. Now, just a reminder, I'm just going off things that come to my head about what I remember about this film. But when I do the part 2 to this episode, it's definitely going to sound a lot different, being that I'll have a better idea of the film. I'll have watched it alone without any crazy people laughing hysterically at the scary jump scares. But I actually want to dive into that for a quick moment because the jump scares in this film, I want to say they were worse than the first Nun because they came out of nowhere, just like the first film. But like these ones were so unpredictable. Like, for example, the one in the beginning with the glass breaking, I'm like, oh, that's just a jump scare, and then Valak jumps out. So like the thing is, they have something happen before the jump scare that kind of makes you think something's happening. Sometimes nothing happens, and then sometimes something does. But I loved it so much. There's a certain jump scare, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like towards the end of the film, and it's so good. I was screaming throughout this entire film. My cousins were laughing at me. They weren't laughing at the film because they were screaming too. Like, we all screamed in sync at a lot of the jump scares because they would come out of nowhere. But I really, really, really enjoyed the jump scares in this film, especially the ones that were involving Valak, because a lot of the other ones involved other certain characters. But you guys will know what I'm talking about if you've watched the film or are going to watch the film. I'm going to save the rest of the showdown / fights for when I do the part 2 to this episode, because I'll have a better idea of what happened, because they were really good, but I can't recall them piece by piece of what I've enjoyed about them, but they were just really good. So I'm going to save that for another episode, but I do want to conclude with some final thoughts on the film itself, and then I want to dive into something that happened after we watched the film. just smiling thinking about this before I even talk about it. I absolutely loved the ending to this film. That's all I'm gonna say. I love the ending to it. And then there was also a post-credit scene. Oh my god, it was so good. It was a very good ending to the film, and obviously like sets up the film for a bunch of other things to occur in the Conjuring universe altogether. But I cannot stop smiling at how good the ending was. It like left me with shivers. I was like, oh. But I'm not gonna spoil anything. And that's all I'm gonna say, is that I really enjoyed the ending. But now I want to dive into something that occurred after we watched the film. Now I'm gonna start this from the moment we got in the car on our way back home. I put in the directions, I was heading home, and there were so many drivers that were driving so recklessly, and I'm like, this is not a coincidence. And like, of course there's like crazy drivers everywhere, but there wasn't one car that was driving normally on our way back home. And I would literally get my own cousin's approval on this when I say that, because there was people cutting me off, there was people swerving in between lanes, there was people stopped at green lights. I'm like, what is happening? It was a scary experience. Even on the highway, we were on the highway and no one was driving correctly. Now, to all you people out there that are like, oh, it's just a coincidence. No, it just happened. Don't worry about it. I'm like, all right, fine. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe all those people were driving like that just because. Like, it had no correlation to do with having watched such a scary horror film with surround sound with two of my cousins that also enjoy horror. Maybe. But when I tell you this next thing, I think that's going to change a lot of your guys' minds. Something I forgot to mention is that some amazing human being named Maggie made me a painting of Valak from The Conjuring 2 and sent it to me through the mail. I didn't know it was going to be a painting of Valak. I didn't know what it was. She was just like, I'm going to send you something. I think you're going to really like it. I think you'll appreciate it. And it is literally a painting of Valak. And if you guys want to check it out, it'll be on my story as soon as this episode is uploaded. But I was geeking out. I was so excited because I had been wanting a portrait of Valak. I know that sounds insane. Even me saying that, I'm like, what is wrong with me? But I've always like loved the painting of Valak in The Conjuring 2. It's just so good, and it's the first time we're introduced to Valak itself. So keeping that in mind, I had Valak in my closet on the floor. I'm like prepping to hang it, put it somewhere. I'm not sure where. But it's on the floor, it's like displayed up, it's not injured, Maggie. Maggie, if you're listening to this, I swear to God, it's being kept in very good condition. I forgot to flip the portrait because I told myself before I went to watch the film, I said, I have to make sure to take this portrait and flip it towards facing the wall so that I don't walk into my room and get scared shitless. I forgot to do that. I came home, went upstairs, it was like 12 a.m. or something, everyone was sleeping. I opened my door, and I am not joking when I say that Valak's eyes in the painting were glowing up. I wish I was lying. I wish I was joking, and I wish I got it on camera, because I like did a very high-pitched scream, but like one that like not everyone heard. Like it was like for a second, because it scared the shit out of me. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, I forgot to turn the damn painting. And I like turned on all the lights, and then I turned off the lights, and the eyes weren't glowing anymore. I'm like, oh, no, we're not doing this today. And I took the painting and I put it downstairs in a different room because I'm like, I can't. I'm like, if I keep this in my room tonight, I'm gonna keep reminding myself that the eyes were glowing. and I will not sleep. So that occurred, and I am still very traumatized by that. And as I'm saying this, I am looking directly at this painting, and it does not glow up in the dark. It doesn't. I've tested it out. I will literally take a picture if no one believes me. But the eyes were glowing. As soon as I came back, the eyes were glowing. It was horrible. I still couldn't sleep even with the painting outside of the room. And it made me realize, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. This is insane. I am never going to sleep again. Not going to sleep for 2 weeks again, just like I did with the first film, the Nun 2018 version. Again, another reference to the first episode, but how is that a coincidence? Now, a lot of you guys might think, oh, you were seeing things. No, this really didn't happen. It happened. If I could rewind like my brain to that moment and like record everything that happened again, like some kind of Black Mirror shit, I would, just to prove to you guys that that happened. The next time I watch a horror film and I come home and I forget to flick the vlog painting, I'm walking in with my phone because I want to see if I can catch it on camera. Overall, I really enjoyed the Nun II for the scenes that I could actually enjoy with everything that happened before, during, and after. But I am excited to watch it a second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time to get more of an idea of how everything was executed. Because a lot happened in this. There's a lot of historic aspects to it, but I'm excited to be able to pause it and break it down whenever I can to understand everything better and to be even more terrified. But I don't think this is a film I can watch like one after another. Like, what I mean by that is like, I watch it tomorrow and then I watch it a week later. I can't. Probably I'll have to wait like a month because just from watching it in the theaters was terrifying with all the people laughing. I can't imagine watching it at home alone by myself in the dark at midnight. That's going to be a very funky adventure, but one that I am very much looking forward to. Now, before we put a cross on tonight's episode, I do want to go over the poll results from the previous episode, which was about the Killer Clowns of 2016. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend it. I've been getting a lot of good buzz about this episode, and you guys really seem to enjoy it. Now, the poll question was, what's your favorite clown movie? And there was 6 options for this one. It, Terrifier, Joker, 31, Clown, and Other. And the winner was It. That one received majority of the votes. It actually received 55% of the votes, which is over half. I have to be honest, I voted for It too. It's okay. I love that film. It was so good. Second place was Joker with 18%. And then third place had a 3-way tie with Terrifier, Clown, and Other. And I'm interested to know what the Other was, because there's a bunch of clown films, but I'm interested to know who put Other. So if you're one of those people that put Other, please drop it in the Q&A on this episode and let me know what other clown film you're thinking of. Also, there was a 4th place. I can't even say 4th place. It was 0th place because it received nothing. 31 received 0%, and I'm surprised because a lot of people talk about that film a lot, and the fact that no one voted for it, I was very pleasantly surprised in a very creepy way. But thank you to everyone who participated on this poll. There is one, of course. I mean, it's become tradition on this episode as well. So please, please, please make sure to check it out on Spotify. Again, Spotify is free. All you need is an email. You literally don't even need to make a password immediately. I didn't have to when I first made an account. So please consider making a Spotify account so that you guys can vote and participate on these polls, as well as the Q&A that is under this episode as well. The rosary has been placed down for now, and that is a wrap on episode 6 of the Horror Headquarters. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this far. If you guys made it to the end, I really, really appreciate it. This is my motivation to get up every day, and I feel like I've said that 100 times in this episode alone, but it's really what keeps me going. And even with 0% energy and no sleep, I'm literally gonna jump in bed and go to sleep right after this. But I love making this. I love talking with you guys. I love expressing my emotions about horror, anything to do with horror, about my own experiences, about reviews. It's just joyful, and I love it, and I enjoy every second and moment of it. And I appreciate you guys that have reached out and told me that you guys have felt seen and have really enjoyed the podcast so far, and I cannot wait to continue making new episodes. Also, I have ordered the very first t-shirt that says the Horror Headquarters on it, and I cannot wait to test run it, if that makes sense. See how it looks. Probably won't buy them unless people are interested in them. That'll probably be like maybe in a year or two, but I just want a shirt for me to promote it. But I am really excited to start wearing it and like get it very soon. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember that there is a Q&A under this episode, and there is also a poll, so please make sure to participate in both of those. Make sure to check us out at the Horror Headquarters on Instagram as well as on Twitter at the Horror HQ. Reminder that I am going to be posting the Nun painting that Maggie made. Her Instagram is also at AHSFXmemes. She deserves all the praise in the world, and I hope you guys check her out and also check out the story that I'm going to upload of the painting that she made for me. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's episode, but until next time, tread very lightly around every corner and pray for forgiveness from Valak. Midnight hour is approaching.